The text landed just as my kettle clicked off. 3 words. That's all it took to detonate a decade of being the good daughter. "You're banned from Thanksgiving, idiot!" I stared at my phone screen, the message glowing against the darkness of my apartment. Tuesday night, 8:47 p.m. The sender was listed as Mom with a little heart emoji next to it, an emoji I'd added myself 2 years ago, back when I still believed in things like family and unconditional love. My name is Natalie Roberts. I'm 28 years old, and I'm a financial analyst at Northcrest Analytics here in Brookridge. In my world, everything has a place. Every number, every projection, every risk assessment. I live alone in a clean, sensible apartment where the only real color comes from the Excel spreadsheets I review after hours on my second monitor. My job is to identify liabilities before they become catastrophic, to see a potential default months before it happens, to read a balance sheet not just for what it says, but for what it hides. I'm good at my job. I'm precise. I'm reliable. And for the last 5 years, I've been applying those same skills to something else, keeping my family afloat. I was in the middle of reviewing my personal monthly budget when the text arrived. My laptop sat open on my small kitchen table, displaying column F of my carefully maintained spreadsheet. The column header just said auto pay, but it should have been labeled something else. Something more honest, like family, or maybe bleeding. The kettle began to whistle, a high, insistent shriek that filled my quiet apartment. I didn't move. I just kept staring at that one word, the one that somehow hurt more than the banishment itself. Idiot. My mother called me an idiot. The woman who raised me, who taught me to tie my shoes and helped me with my homework, who held me when I cried after my first heartbreak, she called me an idiot and banned me from Thanksgiving dinner. I set the phone down carefully on the table, screen side up so I could still see the message. Then I walked to the stove and turned off the burner. The whistling stopped. The silence that replaced it felt heavier than the sound. When I returned to my laptop, my hands were shaking. Not with anger, not yet, with something closer to shock. That cold, crystalline clarity that comes right before you realize everything has changed. I looked at column F row 2, Brookridge Utilities. Electric bill monthly, $184, account holder, Natalie Roberts. Service address, 1255 Oakwood Drive, Parents' House. The bill had been in my name for 3 years. Just temporarily, my mother had said. Just until your father's finances stabilize. Thomas Roberts, my dad, had been between jobs that winter. They'd needed help keeping the lights on. I was 25, freshly promoted and proud to be able to help. Except Dad had been steadily employed for the last 2.5 years, and the bill was still in my name. Still auto-drafting from my checking account on the 22nd of every month. Row 3, Apex Broadband, Internet Service Monthly, $119, Premium Gigabit Tier. Why do they need gigabit internet? I'd asked once. Oh, Dylan needs reliable speeds for his work VPN when he visits, Mom had explained, as if this made perfect sense. Dylan Carter, my 30-year-old cousin, the golden child of the family, the one who always had a big commission coming, a major deal closing, a promotion just around the corner. The one who somehow never had quite enough money to pay for his own phone bill, his own gas, his own anything. But he needed premium internet. Of course. Row 4, All Line Insurance, Auto Policy Monthly, $212, Vehicle, 2019 Ford F-150, Thomas Roberts. My father's truck. The one I wasn't allowed to borrow because, as Dad had explained with an apologetic smile, "You wouldn't understand the clutch, honey. It's temperamental." Except I was paying $212 a month for the privilege of not understanding that clutch. Row 5, T-Mobile Family Plan. Monthly, $340. 6 lines, my line, Mom and Dad's lines, Aunt Sarah's line, and 2 iPads whose owners I'd stopped asking about 2 years ago when the answers just made me angry. All billed to my credit card, the one that earned me a pathetic 1% cash back on my own family's dependency. Row 6, Shell Gas Card. Monthly, $95, average. This was my favorite. Aunt Sarah had a secondary card on my Shell account. She was supposed to use it only for emergencies and, only when driving your father to his medical appointments. Last month's statement showed purchases in 3 different states. None of them contained his doctor's office. One was at a Shell station 2 blocks from a casino. Row 7, Bank of Brookridge Mortgage. Monthly, $1,400. Cosigner, Natalie Roberts. This was the big one. The monster lurking at the bottom of my spreadsheet. My name was on the mortgage, not as the homeowner, as the cosigner, as the backup plan, as the person who would catch them if they fell. Just until your father's pension clears, Mom had promised 18 months ago. 2 months tops, 3 at the outside. 18 months later, $1,400 still auto-drafted from my primary checking account on the first of every month, regular as clockwork. The pension had cleared, the excuse had evaporated, but the payment remained. I stared at the total at the bottom of column F, $2,350 per month, $28,200 per year, for 3 years running. I grabbed my phone and pulled up my photo gallery, scrolled back to last Christmas. There we all were, posed by the fireplace at 1255 Oakwood Drive, wearing matching cable knit sweaters that Mom had ordered online. We looked happy. We looked normal. We looked like the kind of family that helped each other. I remembered that day with perfect clarity. The sweaters had arrived in a big box with my name on the shipping label, because of course I'd paid for them too. That same afternoon, Mom had handed out gifts. Dylan had unwrapped a luxury watch, all polished silver and dark blue face with a dozen tiny dials. Easily $2,000, maybe more. Only the best for my #1 salesman, Mom had announced, beaming as Dylan strapped it onto his wrist. My gift had been next, a small festive bag with tissue paper. Inside, a scented candle. Vanilla bean, the kind they sell at the grocery store checkout counter for $11.99. "We know you love those," Dad had said, smiling like he'd remembered something deeply personal about me. I'd held that candle, which weighed almost nothing, and looked at the gleaming machinery on Dylan's wrist. Then I'd looked at the lights twinkling on the Christmas tree, the lights powered by electricity I was paying for, and I'd smiled. "Thank you. It's lovely." That was the moment, I realized now. That was when I'd stopped being their daughter and started being their creditor, when I'd stopped hoping they'd change and started simply waiting for them to default. The photograph on my phone was a lie, a beautifully staged prospectus for a company that was functionally insolvent. The truth was favoritism, thick and suffocating, all directed at Dylan. Dylan, who worked in logistics and always wore shirts that cost more than my car payment. Dylan, who was always on the verge of a massive commission. Dylan, who had never, not once, paid for a round of drinks in his life if I was in the room. My phone buzzed in my hand, startling me. I looked down. Another text from Mom. No words this time. Just a photo. A white styrofoam container sitting on what I recognized as their front porch. Inside, congealed gravy and dry turkey slices. The text below. "We saved you a plate. It's on the porch." I felt something crack inside my chest. Not break, crack. Like ice shifting on a frozen lake. They'd already had Thanksgiving, a pre-Thanksgiving gathering. While I sat in my apartment, uninvited and unaware, they'd been together. Eating, laughing, saving me leftovers like that somehow made up for the exclusion. Like I was a stray dog they'd felt momentarily guilty about. I set the phone down again and looked at my spreadsheet. At column F. At all those neat rows of auto-pay obligations. At the sum total of 5 years of being the safety net. The good daughter. The reliable one. The idiot. My father, Thomas Roberts, had needed surgery 5 years ago. Nothing life-threatening, a routine procedure, but expensive. The copay was $4,000. Mom had called me, her voice trembling and wet. "We just don't have it, Natalie. The hospital wants it up front. We don't have it." I'd been 23 years old. I'd just started at Northcrest. My savings account, the one I'd been building since I was 16, bagging groceries at the Shop and Save, had exactly $4,287 in it. I'd driven to the hospital and paid at the billing desk with my debit card. My hands had shaken as I entered my PIN. Dad had squeezed my hand from his hospital bed afterward. His palm felt papery and thin. "We'll pay you back next month," he'd whispered. "I promise, sweetie. Promise." The promise evaporated like steam. The money was never mentioned again. But something shifted. I'd passed a test I didn't know I was taking. I'd proven I could be counted on. I'd shown them I would catch them when they fell. So they kept falling, again and again and again, and I kept catching them, until tonight. I opened 6 new browser tabs. My fingers, trained by a decade of data entry and financial analysis, flew across the keyboard. I logged into each account with muscle memory. Brookridge Utilities Commission. Navigate to billing. Find Manage Autopay. There's my card number, the one I know by heart now, the one I've typed into so many payment portals it sometimes appears in my dreams. Click. Remove payment method. A pop-up. Are you sure? This will stop all automatic payments. My cursor hovers over Confirm. I think about my childhood, about Dad teaching me to ride a bike, his hand steady on the back of my seat, about Mom making my favorite chocolate chip cookies, the kitchen smelling like brown sugar and vanilla, about family game nights and inside jokes and feeling safe. Then I think about that text message. "You're banned from Thanksgiving, idiot." I click Confirm. The screen refreshes. Payment method removed. Account will revert to manual billing. One switch flipped. Apex Broadband. Same process. Navigate. Click. Remove. Confirm. Account holder privileges transferred to Thomas Roberts. Service will continue until current billing cycle ends. To avoid interruption, new payment method required. 2 switches flipped. All line insurance. This one's trickier. I can't just remove myself. I'm listed as the primary account holder. I have to transfer ownership completely. Click. Transfer account. Enter. Thomas Roberts. His date of birth. His driver's license number. I have it memorized from filling out forms for them over the years. Transfer request submitted. Effective date, November 27th, 11:59 p.m., Sunday night, right before Thanksgiving week. 3 switches flipped. T-Mobile. I can't cancel the whole family plan. I'll lose my number, my contacts, my 2-factor authentication links. I have to do what they call a port out. Separate my line from theirs and start my own account. This requires a trip to a physical store. I check the clock, 9:43 p.m. Too late tonight. But tomorrow morning, first thing, I'll drive to the T-Mobile across town, not the one near my parents' house where the employee might know our family. A different one. For now, I access the account settings and add a security note. Authorization changes require in-person verification with 2 forms of government-issued ID. No phone approvals permitted. Dylan won't be able to make changes remotely. None of them will. 4 switches flipped. Shell gas card. I call the number on the back of the card. Navigate the automated menu. Press 0 for representative. "Thank you for calling Shell Card Services. This is Derek. How can I help you tonight?" "Hi, Derek. I need to report a secondary card as stolen and cancel it immediately. Card number ending in 4228. "I can help you with that, ma'am. Can you verify the primary account holder name and the last 4 of the Social Security number?" I provide the information. "Okay, I see that card here. And you said it was stolen?" "Yes. I'd also like to dispute all gas purchases made in the last 90 days as fraudulent." A pause. "All purchases in the last 90 days? Let me see here. Let me see. That's approximately 42 transactions totaling $847. Correct. I didn't authorize any of them." "Okay, ma'am. I'm going to cancel that card immediately and flag those charges for dispute investigation. You should see a credit within 7 to 10 business days." "Thank you, Derek." The call ends. Aunt Sarah's free ride is over. 5 switches flipped. The last one is the biggest, the one I've been avoiding. Bank of Brookridge, Mortgage Services. I log into the portal. Navigate to my linked external accounts. There it is. The authorization that allows them to automatically draft $1,400 from my checking account every month. The screen shows a simple button, Revoke Authorization. My finger hovers over the trackpad. If I click this, they'll have to make the payment themselves, from their own account, with their own money, like adults, like homeowners, Like people who don't call their daughter an idiot after she's funded their entire lifestyle for half a decade. I close my eyes, take a breath, open them. Click. Are you sure you want to revoke this payment authorization? This action cannot be undone. Confirm. Authorization revoked. No future payments will be processed from the linked account. 6 switches flipped. The house of cards I'd been funding for years just lost its foundation. I sat back in my chair. My hands weren't shaking anymore. They were perfectly steady. The apartment was silent except for the hum of my refrigerator and the distant sound of someone's TV through the wall. On my screen, column F of my spreadsheet was still there, all those rows of auto-pay obligations. But they weren't obligations anymore. They were just data, historical information, a record of what used to be. I highlighted the entire column, pressed delete. The cells went blank. My phone buzzed again. I looked down, expecting another text from Mom. Instead, it was an email notification. The subject line made my stomach clench. Your scheduled payment has been canceled. Bank of Brookridge. The email confirmed what I'd just done. The mortgage payment scheduled to process tonight at midnight had been canceled per my request. They wouldn't know. Not tonight. They wouldn't know until the bank called them or until the first late notices started arriving, the ones that would be mailed to their house but addressed to me because I was still on the mortgage as a co-signer. I opened a new document and started typing. Not in a spreadsheet this time, in a simple text file. I labeled it action_log_Roberts_family. TXT. November 26th, 9:15 p.m. Removed payment method from Brookridge Utilities account. November 26th, 9:17 p.m. Removed payment method from Apex Broadband account. November 26th, 9:22 p.m. Transferred all line insurance account ownership to Thomas Roberts. November 26th, 9:31 p.m. Added security restrictions to T-Mobile family account. November 26th, 9:38 p.m. Reported shell card ending in 4228 as stolen, disputed $847 in charges. November 26th, 9:44 p.m. Revoked mortgage autopay authorization from Bank of Brookridge. I saved the file. Then I saved a backup copy to my cloud storage. This wasn't revenge. This wasn't even anger, really. This was an audit, and in an audit, documentation is everything. I remembered something my mentor Madison Clark had told me during my first month at Northcrest. The numbers always tell you the truth, Natalie. People lie, they rationalize, they justify. But numbers? Numbers just are. Your job is to see them clearly and act accordingly. I'd been looking at the numbers for 5 years. The truth had been right there in column F the whole time. I'd just been too afraid, or too guilty, or too hopeful to act on it. You're banned from Thanksgiving, idiot. Well, they'd finally given me permission to stop paying for their party. My phone buzzed again, another text, this time from Dad. Sweetie, your mother is very upset. Can you please call her? I don't understand what happened. I looked at the message, felt absolutely nothing. Typed back, I'm busy tonight, Dad. We can talk later. Hit send, put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Made myself tea, Earl Grey, the kettle water finally put to use, and sat by the window overlooking the street. The city lights glowed orange and white against the November darkness. I thought about Thanksgiving, about the dinner I'd been banned from, about Dylan and his girlfriend Jessica sitting in my seat at the table eating food I'd indirectly paid for with all those utility payments and insurance premiums. I thought about Mom and Dad and Aunt Sarah and Uncle Robert passing dishes and making toasts, and probably not thinking about me at all. And I realized something. I didn't want to be there anyway. I didn't want to sit at a table where my presence was tolerated but not valued, where my contributions were expected but not acknowledged, where I was family when they needed money but difficult when I needed respect. I wanted to be here, in my clean, quiet apartment, drinking my tea, looking at my blank column F, finally taking care of myself. My laptop chimed with a new email notification. I glanced over. Subject, action required, payment method, declined for account number 4425591B, from Brookridge Utilities Commission. Dear Natalie Roberts, this is an automated message to inform you that the scheduled automatic payment for your Brookridge Utilities account was declined today at 10:02 p.m. Reason: payment method no longer valid. Please log into your portal immediately to provide a valid payment method to avoid service interruption. The gears were already turning. The machine was processing my decision. By tomorrow morning, they'd start getting these emails too. Alerts about failed payments, notices about accounts in arrears, warnings about service disconnections. And for the first time in 5 years, I wouldn't be there to fix it. I closed my laptop, finished my tea, rinsed the cup in the sink, and placed it in the drying rack with the precise care I applied to everything in my life. Then I went to my bedroom, set my alarm for 6 a.m., early enough to be the first customer at T-Mobile when they opened, and climbed into bed. I should have felt guilty, or scared, or sad. Instead, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. I felt light, like I'd been carrying a backpack full of stones for so long that I'd forgotten what it was like to stand up straight. And now, suddenly, the weight was gone. The straps had been cut, the burden had been set down. I wasn't their safety net anymore. I wasn't their backup plan. I wasn't their wallet. I was just Natalie Roberts, 28 years old, financial analyst, woman who'd finally run the numbers and made the only logical decision. I closed my eyes. Tomorrow, I'd finish what I'd started. Tomorrow, I'd go to T-Mobile and complete the port out. Tomorrow, I'd start building the legal firewall that Madison would tell me I needed. But tonight, I slept better than I had in 5 years. Wednesday morning arrived cold and bright. I woke up at 5:47 a.m., 13 minutes before my alarm, and lay in bed staring at the ceiling. For a moment, I couldn't remember why my chest felt different, lighter. Then it came back to me, the text, the switches, the silence. I reached for my phone on the nightstand. Do Not Disturb had blocked 17 calls overnight. The notification preview showed Mom, 7, Dad, 6, Aunt Sarah, 4. I didn't check the voicemails. I didn't read the texts. I just got up, showered, dressed in my most professional outfit, navy blazer, white blouse, black slacks, and left the apartment by 6:45 a.m. The T-Mobile store opened at 8. I was waiting in the parking lot at 7:52, holding a large coffee from the drive-thru, watching the employee unlock the doors. "Morning," the rep said as I walked in. He had bright blue hair and a name tag that read Kevin. "You're eager. How can I help?" "I need to port out my number from a family plan and start an individual account. Today. Right now." Kevin nodded slowly. "Total atomization. Yeah, I can do that. Fair warning, it's going to leave the other lines on the original plan, but their monthly cost might change once you're gone." "That's fine," I said. "They can manage it." 23 minutes later, my phone rebooted with a new SIM card. My number stayed the same, but everything else changed. I was on my own plan now, the cheapest one T-Mobile offered. Just me. Single line. Basic data. It felt like breathing for the first time in years. "One more thing," I said as Kevin handed me my receipt. "On the old account, the one I just left, I need you to add a security note." "What kind of note?" "The new account administrator, whoever the system defaults to, must verify their identity in person with 2 forms of government-issued ID before making any changes. Adding lines, upgrading devices, anything. No phone authorizations." Kevin's eyebrows went up. "That's pretty restrictive." "There's been unauthorized activity," I said simply. He typed for a long minute, then looked up. "Done. That account is locked down tight. Nobody's changing anything without showing up here with a passport and a utility bill." I thanked him and left. By 8:35 a.m., I was sitting in a back booth at Corner Sip, a quiet coffee shop on the east side of town. Madison Clark was already there, laptop open, a ceramic mug of black coffee steaming at her elbow. Madison is 45, with silver-streaked hair she wears in a perpetual bun, and eyes that see through bullshit like it's glass. She hired me 5 years ago. She taught me how to read a balance sheet not for what it says, but for what it hides. She's the best analyst at Northcrest, and she doesn't tolerate fools. I sat down without ordering anything, just unzipped my bag and placed a white 3-ring binder on the table between us. Madison looked at the binder, then at me. She closed her laptop. "This isn't a work problem, is it?" she said. "It's a data analysis problem." She opened the binder, didn't say a word, just read. I watched her finger trace down the first page, the autopay list. Watched her flip to the T-Mobile agreement showing my signature. Watched her pause on the credit report showing the Brookridge Builder Supply account I'd never opened. 20 minutes of silence. Finally, she closed the binder and looked up. "You've been miscategorized," Madison said. "What?" She tapped the binder's plastic cover. "You are not listed on their books as daughter. You're listed as accounts payable. You are their infrastructure, their utilities, their safety net." I felt something twist in my chest. "This is a structural dependency you've enabled," Madison continued, "and the numbers show they have no intention of changing the terms. You're a net, Natalie, not a daughter. You have to cut the net." "I did," I said quietly. "Last night, I removed my card from everything." Madison nodded, but she didn't look impressed. "That's phase 1. That's stopping the bleeding. Now comes the procedure." She pulled a pin from her jacket and grabbed a clean napkin from the dispenser. "A defaulting account can't just be ignored. It has to be legally and technically unwound. Otherwise, they just find a new way to access your money." She drew 3 columns on the napkin. "This is your checklist," she said. "This is how you firewall yourself, not as a daughter, as an analyst. No emotion, just procedure." I stared at the napkin, at those 3 simple words. "Natalie," Madison said, and her voice was gentler now. "I need you to hear this. You are not being cruel. You are being clear. Boundaries without enforcement are just suggestions. You're finally enforcing." My eyes burned. I blinked hard. "But they're my family," I whispered. "No," Madison said. "They're your clients, and you're firing them." I drove home and sat at my laptop for the next 6 hours straight. First, credit freeze. I'd heard about this in theory, locking down your credit so nobody could open new accounts in your name, but I'd never actually done it. I went to Experian's website, entered my social security number, my address, answered the security questions. Questions my mother had helped me create years ago when I was setting up my first bank account. "What was the name of your first pet?" "Buttons, our golden retriever." I could still picture Mom sitting next to me at the kitchen table, helping me fill out the forms. "Make sure you remember these answers, sweetie. You'll need them someday." I clicked the button. Freeze credit report. "Are you sure?" "Freezing your credit will prevent anyone, including you, from opening new credit accounts until you unfreeze it." I clicked confirm, 1 down. I repeated the process with TransUnion, then Equifax. 3 major credit bureaus, all frozen. A wall of ice around my identity. Next, fraud alert. This was different from a freeze. It meant that any creditor who tried to issue credit in my name would have to contact me directly by phone to verify my identity first. I placed 90-day fraud alerts on all 3 bureaus. Then came the hard part, the line I'd been afraid to cross. I logged into my credit report and found the collection account. Brookridge Builder Supply. $2,300, the hardware store. The account my mother had opened in my name 7 years ago when I was a junior in college working part-time at the campus library. The account I'd only discovered 3 years later when a loan officer frowned at his screen and asked me to explain a debt I'd never heard of. I clicked Dispute this item. Reason for dispute? I selected, I did not authorize this account. The system prompted me to upload supporting documentation, a police report or an FTC identity theft affidavit. My hands started shaking. This was it. This was the moment where I stopped being a daughter who suspected something was wrong and became a victim filing an official complaint. This was the moment where I accused my mother of fraud. I navigated to the Federal Trade Commission's website, found the identitytheft.gov portal, started filling out the affidavit. Victim information, Natalie Roberts. How were you affected? Unauthorized credit card or loan account information. Brookridge Builder Supply. Date account was opened, March 2018. Were you aware of this account? No. Did you give anyone permission to use your information? No. The form asked for details. I typed them mechanically. I discovered this account when applying for an auto loan in 2021. The lender informed me there was a collection account in my name. When I confronted my mother, Julia Roberts, she admitted to opening the account using my personal information without my knowledge or consent. She claimed it was just a family card for household purposes. I saved the PDF, uploaded it to Experian's dispute portal, then TransUnion's, then Equifax's. The confirmations came back instantly. Your dispute has been received and will be investigated within 30 days. I sat back, heart pounding. I'd just legally documented that my mother stole my identity. There was no going back now. The utilities were next. I called Brookridge Utilities Commission and sat on hold for 43 minutes, listening to a tinny loop of Vivaldi's Spring. Brookridge Utilities, this is Brenda. How can I help you? Hi, Brenda. My name is Natalie Roberts. I'm the account holder for service at 1255 Oakwood Drive. I need to transfer the account ownership to the current residents, Thomas and Julia Roberts, effective immediately. Okay, ma'am, but we can't just transfer it like that. They'll need to apply for new service in their own name. We'll have to shut off the power under your account first. When's the soonest you can do that? We require 3 business days' notice. The earliest shut-off date would be— I don't want a shut-off date, I interrupted. I want a transfer of liability. The service can continue, but my name and my financial obligation need to end. Check your terms of service. I'm giving you formal notice of termination as the account holder. A long pause, clicking sounds. Okay, ma'am, I see what you mean. We can schedule the account to revert to the property address. The new residents will need to call us with their payment information and social security number to avoid service interruption. If they don't call, the power will be cut automatically. Perfect. What's the effective date? The system will process the transfer on Sunday, November 27th at 11:59 p.m., right before Thanksgiving week. Please schedule it, I said. I repeated the exact same process with Apex Broadband, another hour on hold, same result. Internet service would revert Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. If they didn't call with a new credit card and pass a credit check, the connection would drop. By the time I hung up, it was almost 3 p.m. My ear hurt from pressing the phone against it. My jaw ached from maintaining a professional voice. But it was done. I was about to close my laptop when something caught my eye. I was still logged into the old T-Mobile account. I had about 15 minutes left before the system kicked me out completely. Out of curiosity, I clicked on the Account History tab. Account Authorizations. I scanned the list of users. My name had been removed this morning when I ported out. Thomas Roberts was listed as the original primary holder. Julia Roberts was listed as an authorized user. And there, third on the list, Dylan Carter, authorized user, added, May 15th, 2022. I frowned. 2 years ago. I didn't remember authorizing that. I clicked View Authorization Document. A PDF loaded. Standard T-Mobile Consent Form. I, Natalie Roberts, consent to add Dylan Carter as an authorized user on my T-Mobile account. This user will have permission to make changes to the account, add lines, and upgrade devices. At the bottom, a signature. Natalie Roberts in looping blue digital ink. I stared at it. That wasn't my signature. I pulled up my driver's license on my phone, looked at my real signature in the bottom right corner, compared it to the one on the screen. The N in the forged signature was too looped. The R in Roberts was too sharp. The whole thing slanted left when my natural signature slanted right. It was a decent fake, but it was a fake. My mother had forged my signature to add Dylan as an authorized user. My blood went cold. I took a screenshot, saved it to a new folder on my desktop. Legal_evidence. Then I pulled up the old credit report, the one showing the Brookridge Builder Supply account. I requested the original application documents. They arrived in my email 7 minutes later. Same thing. Another consent form, another forged signature, slightly different from my real one. My mother had been forging my signature for at least 5 years. This wasn't just poor boundaries. This wasn't just family helping family. This was fraud. Multiple counts. Federal crime territory. My phone buzzed. An email from Experian. Subject: Fraud Investigation Update. Case number EXP-2024-4 47821. Dear Ms. Roberts, we have received your FTC identity theft affidavit regarding the Brookridge Builder Supply account. Our system has cross-referenced the digital signature on that application with other accounts in our database. Our analysis indicates a high probability of digital signature forgery across multiple accounts. Your case has been escalated to our fraud prevention team. Please note, the creditors may choose to pursue legal action against the identified perpetrators. Sincerely, Experian Fraud Division. The machine had found it. The algorithm had seen the pattern. The system knew what my mother had done. I forwarded the email to myself at my personal Gmail account, then printed it, then saved it to 3 different cloud storage services. This was evidence now. Real, legal, prosecutable evidence. But I wasn't done digging. Something was nagging at me. The T-Mobile bill had always seemed too high for just 6 phone lines. I pulled up the last 6 months of itemized statements and exported them to a spreadsheet. I focused on the line listed as iPad Pro 12.9, Device 2. Data usage, 42 gigabytes last month, 38 the month before, 41 before that. That was a lot of data, way more than occasional browsing or email. I clicked into the device details. Last IP address, 72.1.14.35.1. I frowned. That IP prefix looked familiar, but it wasn't my parents' house. Their home internet was Comcast, and their IP always started with 68. I copied the IP address and pasted it into a geolocation lookup tool. IP block registered to Brookridge Luxury Towers Management. My stomach dropped. Brookridge Luxury Towers. That was Dylan's apartment building. The iPad wasn't at my parents' house. It had never been at my parents' house. Dylan had been using it full-time from his own apartment, on my data plan, for at least a year. I dug deeper into the usage logs, pulled up the detailed timestamps. The pattern was unmistakable. Every weekday, Monday through Friday, data consumption spiked starting at exactly 9 a.m. It continued steadily until 5:15 p.m., then dropped off sharply. 9 to 5 data consumption. Dylan wasn't just using my data plan for entertainment or occasional work emails. He was running his entire job off my hotspot, his logistics position, his VPN, his video conferences, his file transfers, all of it on my T-Mobile bill while he lived in a luxury apartment that probably cost $2,000 a month. I checked the hotspot connection history. Most connections were from his apartment, but I also saw his gym's IP address. Brookridge Elite Fitness. He was working from the treadmill. On my data. My hands were shaking again, but not with shock this time, with cold, precise fury. I created a new spreadsheet, hidden_costs_Dylan_Carter.xlsx, column A, stolen data, iPad, 42 gigabytes per month, average times $75 per month. Overage cost times 12 months equals $900 per year. I'd been paying for Dylan's entire work-from-home setup for at least a year, probably longer, but even that wasn't the worst of it. I went back to my files and pulled up the old electric bills from Brookridge Utilities. I'd been keeping them for tax purposes, stored neatly in a folder labeled Receipts_2023. I opened the statement from October, scanned past the kilowatt-hour usage. There was a line item I'd noticed before, but never really investigated, HDEQ, surcharge, $45. I'd assumed it was an air conditioning spike during summer, but this bill was from October. It had been cold. Why would there be a high-demand equipment surcharge in fall? I Googled the code next to the charge, BU-HD-44A. The search results came back immediately. Brookridge Utilities High Demand Equipment Code 44A. Residential surcharge for non-standard high amperage equipment. Examples include industrial kilns, commercial freezers, or 220-volt welding equipment. Welding equipment. And suddenly, I remembered Christmas. Dylan standing by the fireplace, showing off photos on his phone of custom bike frames he'd been building as a side project. "It's amazing what you can make in your spare time," he'd said, grinning. "I've got this sweet setup in Uncle Thomas's garage." My father didn't weld. My father could barely change a light bulb. Dylan had been running a side business out of my parents' garage using electricity I was paying for to power his equipment. I pulled up every electric bill from the last 2 years. The $45 surcharge appeared consistently for the last 24 months. $45 times 24 months equals $1,080. I updated my spreadsheet. Column B, electricity, welding business. $1,080 over 24 months. Running total, $1,980. And that was just what I'd found in 2 hours of digging. The last piece fell into place when I logged into Bank of Brookridge to check the mortgage account. I was still listed as co-signer, which meant I had full access to the account details. I navigated to the settings page to see who was receiving notifications about the mortgage. The primary email address on file wasn't mine. It wasn't Thomas's. It wasn't Julia's. It was familyproxyfunds@gmail.com. I stared at the screen. Family Proxy Funds, a burner email, an alias. I clicked through to the email history. Every single past due notice, every late payment warning, every action-required message from the bank for the last 18 months had been sent to that address. Not to me, not to my parents, to a fake email account that someone had set up to intercept communications. I felt like I was falling through ice. This wasn't negligence. This wasn't my parents being forgetful or bad with money. This was deliberate. This was a system. Someone had created a fake email address specifically to hide the fact that the mortgage wasn't being paid, and I knew exactly who. I clicked on Account Permissions, scrolled down to Authorized Users. There it was. Dylan Carter. Authorized User. Full access. Added May 15th, 2023. The same date he'd been added to the T-Mobile account. 18 months ago. Dylan had access to my father's checking account. He could view transactions. He could transfer money. He could see when the pension deposits came in and when the mortgage was due. And he'd set up a fake email to make sure Thomas and Julia never saw the warnings. So he could keep calling me with stories about bank errors and processing delays, while I, the idiot, kept paying. I pulled up the transaction history for Thomas's checking account. Started scrolling through 18 months of deposits and withdrawals. There. Small transfers to an external account. $200 on June 3rd. $300 on June 27th. $275 on July 15th. $225 on August 2nd. Every 2 to 3 weeks. Always to the same external account. D. Carter Personal. He wasn't just intercepting the mortgage payments. He was stealing directly from Thomas's checking account. Small enough amounts that they wouldn't be immediately noticed, but large enough to add up. I did the math. 18 months of these transfers. $4,800 stolen from Thomas's account. Plus the $25,200 I'd paid for the mortgage. Plus the $1,980 in electricity and data theft. Dylan's total take, $32,000. I sat back from my laptop. The room felt too small, too bright, too quiet. My cousin, the family golden boy, the one with the expensive watch and the new car and the luxury apartment, had been systematically embezzling from his own uncle while using me as the backup plan, and my parents had no idea. I created a new document, Dylan_Carter_fraud_evidence.pdf. I copied in screenshots of the Family Proxy Funds email, transaction history showing transfers to D. Carter Personal, bank authorization document showing Dylan's full access, iPad data usage logs with IP addresses, electric bills showing welding surcharges, T-Mobile forged signature 43 pages of evidence. I saved it to my legal_evidence folder, then printed a hard copy. My phone buzzed. Madison. How's the audit going? I texted back. It's worse. It's not just dependency. It's fraud. Multiple people. Multiple years. She forged my signature. He's been stealing from his own uncle. 3 dots appeared. Then, facts, Natalie, not feelings. This is a deposition. Stick to the data. What's your next move? I looked at my screen, at the folders full of evidence, at the spreadsheets documenting thousands of dollars in theft. This wasn't a family squabble anymore. This was criminal. I typed, I'm going to give them one chance to fix it themselves. Then I'm calling the bank's fraud department. Madison replied immediately. Good. Document everything. Every conversation. Every email. Timestamp everything. CYA. Cover your ass. The analyst's golden rule. I opened a new email draft. To thomasroberts@gmail.com, juliaroberts@gmail.com. Subject. Action required. Brookridge Utilities and Apex Broadband accounts. Dear Thomas and Julia, this email is to formally notify you that as of Sunday, November 27th at 11:59 p.m., I have terminated my financial and legal responsibility for the utility and internet services at 1255 Oakwood Drive. To avoid service interruption, you must contact Brookridge Utilities 555-847-2900, Apex Broadband 5559-314-400. They will require your Social Security number and a valid payment method for deposit. I have attached a PDF guide with step-by-step instructions. This transfer is permanent and non-negotiable. Natalie, I clicked Schedule Send and set it for Monday morning, 9 a.m. The day after the shutoff. The day after they'd spent Thanksgiving without me. The day the panic would really begin. I created a second email for the T-Mobile account. Same professional tone. Same scheduled send time. Then I looked at the clock. 7:47 p.m. I'd been at this for 11 hours straight. My back ached. My eyes burned. My head throbbed. But I had everything I needed. Legal fortress, built. Technical unwinding, complete. Communication strategy, prepared. Evidence, documented. The countdown had begun. In 4 days, on Sunday night at 11:59 p.m., their power and internet would cut off. In 5 days, they'd wake up to my emails explaining why. And in 6 days, well, in 6 days, I'd find out what kind of people they really were. I closed my laptop, made myself dinner, just scrambled eggs and toast. I couldn't stomach anything heavier, and sat by the window again. My phone showed 53 missed calls now. The texts had started to shift in tone. Mom, Natalie Marie Roberts, you call me back right now. Dad, sweetie, please. Your mother is beside herself. Whatever happened, we can fix it. Aunt Sarah, you need to grow up and stop this childish tantrum. And one from Dylan that made my skin crawl. Hey, cuz, heard you're having a rough week. I'm here if you need to talk. Family helps family, right? Family helps family. The same line they'd used on me for 5 years. The verbal cudgel to beat back any attempt at a boundary. I blocked Dylan's number. Then I put my phone back on Do Not Disturb and went to bed. Tomorrow was Thanksgiving. While they all gathered at 125.5 Oakwood Drive, eating turkey and stuffing and pie, toasting to Dylan's success, laughing and performing their happy family routine, I'd be here, alone. But for the first time in 5 years, I'd be free. Thanksgiving Day arrived cold and gray. I woke up early, 6:23 a.m. according to my phone, and for a long moment just lay there in bed, listening to the silence. No frantic calls to answer. No crisis to manage. No family emergency that required my immediate financial intervention. Just quiet. I made myself a real breakfast. Not the usual granola bar eaten over my laptop, but actual food. Scrambled eggs with cheese, wheat toast with butter, fresh coffee in my favorite mug. I ate slowly at my small kitchen table, watching the morning light creep across the floor. My phone sat face down on the counter. 68 missed calls since Tuesday night. I hadn't checked a single voicemail. Around noon, I started preparing my own Thanksgiving dinner. Not a turkey. I wasn't feeding a crowd. Just a small roast chicken, some garlic mashed potatoes, green beans with almonds. Cooking felt meditative, methodical, like balancing a spreadsheet, but with butter and salt. At 4 p.m., my phone lit up with Instagram notifications. I'd muted everyone's stories, but I'd set specific alerts for posts from my family. Not because I wanted to engage, because I wanted to observe. The first post was from Aunt Sarah, a photo of a wine glass held up in a toast, the table behind her crowded with serving dishes. The caption, Grateful for family and all our blessings. 37 likes already. Comments rolling in. Beautiful. Happy Thanksgiving. Love you guys. The second post was from Dylan, a video panning across the Thanksgiving table. The 20-pound turkey, golden and glistening. Mountains of mashed potatoes. 3 different pies on the sideboard. He narrated in his smooth salesman voice. Another incredible year. Another incredible feast. Grateful for this amazing family. The camera swung to his girlfriend, Jessica, who smiled and waved. She wore a burgundy dress that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Dylan's caption, "My queen, my feast. Blessed family first." I watched the video 3 times, counted the plates visible on the table. 8, 1 for each person who'd been invited. My seat had been filled by Jessica. I felt something twist in my chest, but it wasn't pain. Not anymore. It was something colder, clearer. Observation, analysis, confirmation that I'd made the right choice. I tapped on each profile, Sarah, Dylan, Julia, Thomas, and systematically muted all of them. Their performances would continue, but I wouldn't be in the audience anymore. By 7 p.m., I'd finished my own dinner. It was good, simple and quiet and entirely mine. I ate sitting by the window, watching the streetlights flicker on as darkness settled over Brookridge. Then I opened my laptop and pulled up the countdown timer I'd set. Time until utility transfer. 4 hours, 59 minutes. I made myself tea, Earl Grey again, becoming a ritual, and waited. At exactly 8 p.m., I refreshed the Apex Broadband account portal. The page reloaded. A red banner appeared at the top. Your session has expired. Please log in to continue. I typed in my old password. Hit enter. The username or password you entered is incorrect. Please try again. I closed the tab and sat back. At 1255 Oakwood Drive, right at this moment, the router lights were switching from solid blue to blinking orange. The smart TV, the one Dylan had insisted they needed, the one streaming the post-dinner football game, had just frozen mid-play. The Wi-Fi signal was gone. The account liability, as I'd scheduled, was transferred. It wasn't mine anymore. To turn it back on, they'd need to call Apex Broadband, pass a credit check, and pay a new customer deposit. On Thanksgiving night, when customer service was closed. At 8:11 p.m., my email pinged. Subject: Service alert. T-Mobile not addressed to me. B. CC'd to me from the system. The email was auto-generated, sent to all 5 remaining lines on the old family plan. T-Mobile alert. The primary account holder for your plan has changed. Please log in or visit a store to verify your account information and confirm your line. For security purposes, account changes now require in-person verification with 2 forms of government-issued ID. I imagined their phones all chiming at once. The confusion, the scrambling. Someone trying to log into the account only to find they didn't have the password. Someone calling T-Mobile only to be told they couldn't make changes by phone. Someone realizing the stores were all closed for the holiday. They were stranded on a digital island, and I'd just sailed away in the only boat. My phone started vibrating. Call from Dad. I let it ring, let it go to voicemail. 30 seconds later, call from Mom. Silence. Then, call from Aunt Sarah. Silence. Then, call from Dad again. I silenced each one methodically, watching the missed call counter climb. 71, 73, 76. At 8:25 p.m., Aunt Sarah was at a gas station somewhere. I knew this because my phone buzzed with an email alert. Not a call this time, but a notification from my credit card fraud detection system. Declined transaction, Shell gas station number 4487, $67.43. Reason: card reported stolen. I'd forgotten I'd disputed all her charges. The system had flagged the card. Every gas station in America would reject it now. I pictured her standing in the cold under the fluorescent lights, stabbing at the card reader, watching it flash. Card declined over and over. Another call. Sarah's number. I sent it to voicemail. At 8:33 p.m., a text from Dad. Natalie, something's wrong with the TV. The network just cut out. The football game is on. Are you paying the internet bill? Not, is the internet down? Not, can you help us figure this out? Are you paying the internet bill? Even now? Even in crisis. His first assumption was my failure to perform my function. I looked at the message. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. Then I locked my phone and set it face down on the table. At 8:40 p.m., a new text from Julia. A photo, a white styrofoam container, identical to the one from Tuesday. Sad slices of turkey swimming in congealed gravy. A scoop of stuffing gone hard at the edges. The message, we saved you a plate. It's on the porch. We missed you. The emoji, the heart, the performance of maternal affection. We missed you. They'd banned me from Thanksgiving, called me an idiot, and spent the evening posting happy family photos to social media. But now that things were breaking, now that they needed something, suddenly they missed me. I deleted the text without responding. At 9:02 p.m., my laptop chimed with a new email. Subject, alert, scheduled payment canceled. From Bank of Brookridge Mortgage Services. Dear Ms. Roberts, this is an automated notification that your scheduled automatic payment for account number 9901B in the amount of $1,400 has been canceled per your request dated November 26th. The payment was due November 28th. Please ensure manual payment is submitted to avoid late fees and potential default proceedings. The mortgage, the big one. They wouldn't know about this yet. The notice had only been sent to me. But in a few days, when the payment didn't clear, when the bank started calling, when the first late notice arrived in the mail addressed to their house but with my name on it, that's when they'd understand how deep this went. At 9:10 p.m., Dylan posted to Instagram. Not a photo this time, just a black screen with white text. Loyalty isn't something you can buy. Real family doesn't send a bill. Posted from his phone, using his data connection. On the T-Mobile account that I'd technically been paying for until this morning. The irony was so thick I almost laughed. I tapped his profile one last time. Mute posts, mute stories, mute everything. He vanished from my feed like he'd never existed. At 9:12 p.m., the calls started coming faster. Mom, Dad, Sarah, Dad again, Mom again, Dylan. I silenced them all. Watched my phone light up and go dark, light up and go dark. Like a heartbeat I was no longer responsible for keeping alive. My laptop was still open. I pulled up the transaction history for Thomas's checking account one more time. Scrolled through those small transfers to D. Carter Personal. $200, $300, $275, $225, 18 months of theft, $4,800 stolen. And I was the only one who knew. I created a new document, titled it for _Thomas_Roberts_urgent.pdf. I compiled everything. Screenshots of Dylan's bank access transaction history, showing the transfers, the family proxy funds email setup, the timeline showing exactly when Dylan had been given access and when the transfer started. I saved it. Added it to a scheduled email that would send Monday morning at 9 a.m., just like the others. But this one only went to Dad. Subject, you need to see this, your bank account. The body was one sentence. Dad, Dylan has been stealing from you. See attached evidence. Call the bank immediately. At 11:59 p.m., my phone showed 87 missed calls. I made a note in my action log. November 24th, 11:59 p.m. Reached 87 missed calls from Robert's family. Did not answer any. Then I put my phone on the charger, enabled Do Not Disturb with the absolute setting, the one that let nothing through, not even repeated calls from the same number, and went to bed. Tomorrow was Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. Black Friday, the day I'd give them a chance to fix this themselves. Friday morning, Dad called at 7:14 a.m. My Do Not Disturb had lifted at 7 o'clock and his call came through. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Hello? Not hi, Dad, just hello. The voice of Miss Roberts from Northcrest Analytics. Natalie! His voice was ragged, desperate. Oh, thank God! The power, the internet, Dylan's iPad. Everything is broken. You have to stop this, honey. This isn't funny. Please, just talk to me. I'm not making noise, Dad. I'm making things transparent. Check your email. What? Email? I can't. The internet is down, Natalie. I can't check anything. Then use your phone data. I sent you 2 emails this morning. Subject lines are action required and important information. Read them. I heard rustling, the sound of him fumbling with his phone, heavy breathing. It says the power cuts off Sunday, and we need to call with our own credit card. His voice cracked. But I don't know how to. There's a binder, I said calmly. White, 2-inch, on your kitchen table. It's labeled Account Transition Guide. Step-by-step instructions with screenshots. Everything you need. But why are you doing this? What did we do? I closed my eyes, took a breath. You called me an idiot and banned me from Thanksgiving, but that's not why I'm doing this. Silence. I'm doing this because for 5 years I've been paying for your electricity, your internet, your phone, your insurance, your mortgage. I've paid $2,350 every single month. That's $28,200 per year. That's $141,000 total. I heard him make a wounded sound. And in return, I got a $12 scented candle for Christmas while Dylan got a $2,000 watch. I got banned from Thanksgiving while Dylan's girlfriend got my seat. I got called the budget police while you all laughed. We didn't know it was that much. He was crying now. Dylan said he was handling things. He said the bank was just being difficult. Dad, I said, and my voice was ice. Did you give Dylan access to your checking account? Long, terrible silence. He took me to the bank. Dad's voice was barely a whisper. Said he'd set up auto pay for the mortgage, make it easier for me. He said I should make him an authorized user to monitor the payment. I signed papers, a lot of papers. I didn't read them, Natalie. He said it was to protect the house. Dad, I pulled up the PDF on my screen. Dylan has been transferring money out of your checking account, small amounts, $200, $300 at a time, for 18 months. Look at your bank statement. Look for transfers to D. Carter Personal. I heard clicking, then a sharp intake of breath. Oh my God! His voice broke completely. Oh my God, Natalie, I didn't know. $4,800. He stole $4,800 from you? Why would he? He's family. I trusted him. I know, I said quietly. I trusted them too. At noon on Sunday, I drove to 1255 Oakwood Drive. I'd texted Dad Friday night. I'll come by Sunday at noon, kitchen table, you, Mom, and me, no one else. He'd responded immediately. Yes, please, we need to talk. Thank you. But when I pulled into the driveway and let myself in with my old key, Dylan's car was in the driveway too. Of course Mom had called him. She couldn't face this alone. I walked into the kitchen. The fluorescent light was still buzzing, still flickering. The air smelled like burnt coffee and something sour I couldn't identify. Thomas sat at the table, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His eyes were red-rimmed, his flannel shirt wrinkled. He looked old in a way I'd never seen before. Julia sat across from him, spine rigid, hands clasped white-knuckle tight on the Formica surface. Her fortress posture, bracing for attack, and standing against the counter, arms crossed, wearing his expensive wool coat like armor, Dylan. I stopped in the doorway. I said no, Dylan. He's family, Julia said sharply. He deserves to know what you're accusing him of. I looked at Dylan, at his jaw clenched tight, at the way his eyes wouldn't quite meet mine. Fine, I said. I walked to the head of the table and set my briefcase down. This won't take long anyway. I pulled out a single binder, not 2 this time, just 1. The evidence. I placed it in the center of the table with a solid thud that echoed in the small room. This, I said, flipping it open to the first tab, is the mortgage payment history, 18 months, 36 payments. Column A, due date. Column B, amount. Column C, source of payment. I turned the binder so they could all see. Every single payment came from my checking account, while Dylan had full access to yours, Dad, and was transferring money out of it. Thomas flinched. looked at Dylan with something like betrayal in his eyes. Tab 2, I continued, flipping the page. The iPad Pro data usage, 42 gigabytes per month. IP address logs show it's been pinging from Brookridge Luxury Towers, Dylan's apartment. Not this house. He's been running his entire job off my data plan while living in a luxury apartment. Dylan's face went pale. Tab 3, electric bill, $45 monthly surcharge for high-demand equipment, specifically 220-volt welding equipment. Dylan's been running a side business out of your garage, Dad, on my electric bill. Thomas looked like he'd been punched. And tab 4. I pulled a single sheet from its protective sleeve. The T-Mobile authorization form from 2 years ago, adding Dylan as an authorized user. I placed it directly in front of Julia. The signature at the bottom? The one that says Natalie Roberts? That's not my signature, Mom. That's yours. You forged it. Julia's hand started trembling against the table. It was just for the discount. Dylan said he would handle. You forged my signature, I repeated. And this, I slid another document across, is the fraud analysis from Experian. They cross-referenced this signature with the hardware store application from 5 years ago. High probability forgery on both accounts. They're investigating. The creditors may pursue legal action against the perpetrators. The word hung in the air. Perpetrators. Thomas made a low sound, almost a moan. Oh, God. The doorbell rang. Julia jumped. A small, guilty spasm. I didn't move. Just waited. We heard the front door open, heavy footsteps, and then Dylan appeared in the kitchen doorway, looking at me with pure fury. Wait, no. That was a different Dylan. This Dylan, the one who'd been standing by the counter, was still there, frozen. The Dylan in the doorway was Uncle Robert? No, wrong build. I realized my mistake. The man in the doorway wasn't Dylan arriving. It was someone else entirely. But Dylan at the counter was speaking now, his voice low and threatening. Natalie, what the hell did you do? The bank sent me a letter saying I'm under investigation for unauthorized account access. They're not accusing you, I said calmly. They're notifying you of the investigation based on your transaction history. Those were loans! Uncle Thomas knew about them! I turned to Dad. Did you authorize Dylan to transfer $4,800 from your account? Thomas looked at Dylan, then at the papers, then back at Dylan. I authorized you to set up the autopay. I didn't know you were transferring money to yourself. I was managing the account. You said I could handle it. Managing? I pulled out another printout. This is your burner email, familyproxyfunds@gmail.com. You created it specifically to intercept all the mortgage notices from the bank so Dad would never see them, so you could keep calling me with stories about bank errors while you pocketed the difference. Dylan's face went from pale to flushed red. And here, I pulled out my phone, pulled up the screenshot. This is an email from T-Mobile's fraud department. They've flagged your iPad. You have 24 hours to prove ownership and financial responsibility, or the device gets bricked from their network. Permanently. You don't have the right. I have every right, I said. Because you forged my signature, because you stole my data, because you embezzled from your own uncle, because you built your entire life on a foundation of fraud while I paid the bills. I closed the binder, picked it up, put it back in my briefcase. I'm not reporting any of this to the police, I said, looking at each of them in turn. I'm considering the $65,000 I've paid over 5 years to be my final payment for my childhood. We're even. Julia's head snapped up. Hope flickered in her eyes. But, I continued, the credit bureaus already have the forgery evidence. The bank already has the theft documentation. T-Mobile already has the fraud complaint. Those investigations will proceed whether I participate or not. I turned to Thomas, pulled one final document from my bag. This is a revocation of authorization form. It removes Dylan from your checking account immediately. It also requests new passwords and new account numbers. The bank needs you to sign it and bring it in person with 2 forms of ID. This is your only firewall, Dad. I placed the form in front of him, put a pen beside it. It's him or me. Choose. The room went silent except for that buzzing, flickering fluorescent light. Thomas looked at the form, at Julia, who was crying silently now, at Dylan, who looked like a cornered animal. Then he picked up the pen. "I'm sorry," he whispered, and I didn't know if he was talking to me or to Dylan. He signed the form. Dylan exploded. "You can't be serious! Uncle Thomas, I was helping you! I was trying to—" "You stole from me," Thomas said quietly. "You stole from my daughter! You lied to all of us! I was managing things so you wouldn't be stressed." "You were stealing," I said flatly. "The numbers don't lie, Dylan. They never do." I picked up the signed form, placed it in my briefcase. "I'm done," I said. I walked toward the door. Dylan stepped in front of me, blocking my path. "You're going to regret this, Natalie. When you're old and alone and you realize you threw away your family over money—" I looked up at him. At this man who'd stolen thousands of dollars from me while wearing a $2,000 watch, who'd called me family while treating me like an ATM. "No, Dylan," I said quietly. "Let me tell you what I'll regret. I'll regret the years I spent believing you all loved me. I'll regret the thousands of dollars I could have saved. I'll regret every time I chose your comfort over my own dignity." I stepped around him. "But I won't regret this. Not for a second." I walked out of that house, down the driveway, got in my car, and drove away from 1255 Oakwood Drive for what I knew would be the last time. 6 months later, I woke up to sunlight streaming through my bedroom window. The new bedroom in my new apartment across town, bigger than my old place, brighter, with room for a real dining table and a reading nook by the window, paid for entirely by me. With money I was no longer sending to people who called me an idiot. My phone buzzed. Madison. "Coffee this afternoon? Want to hear how you're doing?" "Absolutely. 3 p.m. at Corner Sip?" "Perfect. I'll buy. Senior directors can afford it now, right?" I smiled. The promotion had come through last month. Senior financial analyst. My name on the door. A 23% raise. Turns out when you're not exhausted from family drama, you can actually excel at work. That afternoon, Madison and I sat in our usual booth. "So," she said, stirring her coffee, "have you heard from them?" "Some emails," I said. "Dad sent a long apology. Said he's managing the bills now, working part-time consulting to cover everything. Mom sent a message about repairing the family. Aunt Sarah sent a birthday card last month." "Did you respond?" I sent Dad a short email acknowledging his apology, told him I'm glad he's managing things on his own. That's all. "And Julia?" I shook my head. "There's nothing to repair. The relationship she wants is the one where I pay and stay silent. I'm not available for that anymore." Madison nodded. "What about Dylan?" "Investigation's ongoing. He had to pay back the $4,800, lost his apartment, couldn't afford it without the stolen funds. Last I heard, he's living with his parents." "And how are you?" I looked out the window, at the spring sunshine, at people walking past, living their own complicated lives. "I'm good," I said, and meant it. "I'm really good." 1 year later, November. The text came on a Tuesday afternoon. Unknown number. "Hi, Natalie, this is Thomas. I got a new phone, new number. I wanted to reach out before Thanksgiving. I know I don't deserve a reply, but I wanted you to know. We're having a small dinner. Just me and Julia. Dylan won't be there. If you wanted to come, you'd be welcome. No pressure, no expectations. Just an open invitation. I understand if the answer is no. Dad." I read it 3 times. Felt nothing. Not anger, not hurt, not even curiosity. Just observation. Like reading an email from a former colleague. I typed, "Thomas, thank you for the invitation. I'm going to decline. I wish you a peaceful Thanksgiving. Natalie." I almost added, "I'm glad you're managing things on your own," but I deleted it. That implied I was still monitoring their situation. Still involved. I wasn't. I hit send. That evening, I went to Madison's house for Friendsgiving. 12 people around a crowded table, everyone bringing something. Turkey, sides, wine, desserts. I brought homemade apple pie. We went around the table sharing what we were grateful for. When it was my turn, I looked at these people who'd become my chosen family, who invited me because they wanted my presence, not my wallet, who never asked me for anything except friendship. I'm grateful, I said, for learning what I'm worth and what I'm not willing to pay anymore. Later, at home, I opened my laptop and looked at my budget spreadsheet. Column F, where Family Auto Pay used to bleed me dry, was empty. My savings account, $47,000. My emergency fund, fully funded. My retirement account, growing steadily. My stress level, the lowest it had been in a decade. I opened my journal and wrote, 1 year ago today, I got a text calling me an idiot and banning me from Thanksgiving. I thought my world was ending. I thought I was losing everything. Turns out, I was just finally learning what I was worth. The price of peace is sometimes distance. The price of self-respect is sometimes loneliness. But the price of staying was my soul. I made the right trade. I closed the journal, made myself tea, Earl Grey always, and sat by the window in my quiet, clean, fully paid-for apartment. Outside, the city lights glowed against the November darkness. Inside, my home was warm and safe and entirely mine. I thought about that text message from a year ago, the one that had detonated everything. You're banned from Thanksgiving, idiot. If I could go back and talk to the version of myself who'd received that message, the one sitting at her kitchen table, hands shaking, not knowing what came next, I'd tell her this. That text wasn't a punishment. It was permission. Permission to stop performing. Permission to stop paying. Permission to finally put yourself first. Permission to flip the switches and walk away from a house that was never really yours. My phone buzzed one more time, a text from Madison. Proud of you, kiddo. You turned a liability into a lesson. That's what good analysts do. I smiled and typed back. Thanks for teaching me how to read the numbers, even the ones that hurt. She replied immediately. Especially those ones. Sleep well. I looked around my apartment, at the life I'd built, at the peace I'd bought with the hardest currency there is, boundaries. Tomorrow, I'd wake up and go to work and maybe grab lunch with a friend and come home to this quiet space where no one could call me names or forge my signature or treat me like a bank. Tomorrow, I'd keep living the life I'd chosen instead of the life they'd assigned me. Tomorrow and every day after. But tonight, I was exactly where I wanted to be. Alone, but not lonely. Free.